Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing really well today. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I was not keeping track of the time. I thought I had more time. Okay, welcome to How to Love Negative Emotions, Part 2. And I have been practicing this concept for a while now, and I feel like I'm going to teach it a little bit better today. That's my what I hope to accomplish. Okay, if you are here with me live, would you do me a favor and say hello in the chat? If you are, so I'm in our Empaths and Sensitives Facebook group. I'm streaming there, and I'm also streaming on YouTube right now. So whether you're in our Facebook group or on YouTube, please say hello in the chat. If you're catching the replay, feel free to say hi in the replay or hashtag replay when you get it. Say hello. I would love to say hi back to you. Okay, here we go. How to Love Negative Emotions, Part 2. Number 1. These are the things I'm going to share right now are mine's new perspectives on negative emotions. I'm already going to go off the rails. You know, emotions and feelings are just emotions and feelings. When we call them negative or positive, it's our judgment of them. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just emotions are emotions until we give them meaning, right? Isn't that kind of cool to just think emotions are emotions, feelings are feelings until we give it meaning? And we are, that's good. That's a good thing. We as humans were meant to experience all emotions, I think. And if you try that on for size, if like when I say to myself, I'm supposed to experience all human emotions. I'm supposed to experience it all. That's what I wanted in this lifetime. When I remember that, I have a real sense of like, I have very little resistance within me, and I have more of a feeling of curiosity. And it's a nicer way to live. I'm not in resistance to feeling things. I have a curiosity. I have a different, it's almost like, I mean, I still feel like myself, but it's almost like I'm observing my experience of it more than being in it. And either one is fine. So that's one idea. We're human beings and we're meant to experience all of it. Even the stuff we judge as positive, and even the stuff we judge as negative or neutral. So that's one idea. Idea number 2 that I've been working on in myself. I've noticed for me, and I see it in my husband, especially last night, the suffering comes from resisting the feeling. Most of the suffering comes from resisting the feeling. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to try not to give too many details of my own husband's story, but he was talking about feeling a lot of guilt. And he shared that with me, and I'm like, what? And he brushed over like the feeling of guilt, and he went into the story of why he felt it. And he wanted to stay in the story, and he wanted to sometimes like explain why he was the one at fault. And then sometimes he wanted to explain why he wasn't the one at fault. But all he was trying to do with all the thinking and talking was that was his way of resisting feeling the thing he called guilt. And when I shared with him, I'm like, can you just let the story go for a second and just feel the thing you're calling guilt? It was really hard to just sit and feel it. But it was less suffering than resisting it with stories and justifications. Once he just sat in it and just allowed himself to feel it without thinking of all the circumstances surrounding it, just feel the thing he called guilt, it passed through him. And then the stories, without that charge of the thing he called guilt, started to change. The story was held in place that way because of the fueling it. And when he took the fuel out, he could see the story differently. Okay, that's my mindset ideas around that. Does that make sense? Share in the chat, yes or no. Is that making sense? Okay, so let's move on. Moving on to how to love negative emotions. So again, step one, we're all going to feel everything, and that's okay. That's why we're here. Number two, there is a point where things need to be processed. And the easiest way to process is to just allow yourself to feel it and know that you can handle any emotion. And then after those two things, I think this idea is very useful. When I have an emotion come up that I can tell has a pattern to it, so we'll use my husband's idea of the thing he calls guilt, and he's got a relationship with it. And there's a lot of stories that he'll the way he sees circumstances in his life to support this relationship he has with this thing he calls guilt. He will create stories and circumstances that support this thing, the way he has a relationship with it. So last night when I shared with him, and I asked him first to process the feeling of guilt just by feeling it, and then I said to him, what is your relationship with this thing we're calling guilt? Is the relationship the way it is today serving you? Yes or no? So he had to feel it first and just release the resistance to feeling it. And then he had the space to ask himself the question, what's my relationship with you, guilt? Is it serving me right now? If he would have chosen, yes, my relationship with guilt is the way I want it, I want to keep this pattern, we would have left it. He chose, no, I would like to have a different relationship with the way I'm in, the way my relationship with guilt, I want to experience it differently. Does that make sense? He didn't know he had the choice to either keep the pattern or keep the relationship with guilt the way it's always been. And now he has this idea like, I can change this, my relationship with guilt. I didn't even know that was possible. And he chose, I would like to see what else is possible with this relationship I have with guilt. Could we grow in our relationship? Could we dance a new dance together? Does that make sense so far, everybody? And one of the ways we can change our relationship with people, of an emotion, a pattern, is to look at the other side of it. So, for example, guilt. What could be the opposite of guilt? It could be a feeling of freedom. It could be love, calm, peace, acceptance, responsibility. It's up to everybody's going to have their own idea of what the opposite of guilt is. But that's all we need. So guilt's on one side of the coin, and if you flip the coin over, what's on the other side? And for me, I think of love, and I just keep getting love and acceptance. So I offered my husband last night, I said, when this feeling of guilt shows up again, what if you didn't resist it? What if you just felt it? Let go of the circumstances or stories around it. Just let it come up. And then when you're ready, flip the coin. And on the other side, you allow yourself to feel the other side of the guilt coin, which is, for me, love and acceptance. And what if I allowed myself then to feel that? I allow myself to feel full love and acceptance for myself. If there's any cast of characters involved or circumstances that keep wanting to creep in, give them full love and acceptance. And build that muscle. So instead of Does that make sense, everybody? Is that helpful? I can't see any comments in the chat. So there either aren't any comments or I just can't see them today. If you're typing in the chat, thank you so much. I don't want you to think I don't notice. I just can't see it right now. Okay, is that helpful? The interesting thing, this is a practice. This really will take a little bit of time in the beginning and a little bit of like brain power to stop and do it differently, but it is life changing. Can you imagine if we're going to all feel it all, and every single thing we feel is a gift? Hi, Miranda. I have been trying to reach out to you forever. If you want to email me, please do so. Everything's bounced back from you, and I would love to talk to you if you want to. Okay, I hope that's really helpful. We want to use, we're humans. We're going to feel the emotions. We want to be curious. We want to experience it all and get the most, all the gifts that this life has available to us. We want to even do that with the things we call negative emotions. Zero resistance. Let's feel it because we came here to experience it all. And then let that thing we're calling a negative emotion be the signpost to say, to flip the coin and look at the other side of that, and to build that muscle of, it's usually love and acceptance, peace, freedom. It really comes down to just a few things. And then to sit in that and build that muscle. Okay, I hope that's helpful. It really came out differently in week 2, part 2. I'm going to do the same thing next week, part 3. I'm not sure how it's going to come out of me, but it's such an important idea that I'm trying to get across and practice myself and share it with whoever is interested. Okay, thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week, and I'll see you then.